Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for day 11 of the 12 days of Buildmas. We are almost towards the end. This is the second to last one, and today we are going to be creating a functional farm space up on the floating islands. Now, I did want to do this and kind of figure out a more aesthetic layout, but I actually went for a more practical version of this. So I went for a version where you can fit every single crop we have in game, including the 2 DLCs, and there is actually also extra space in this to add extra crops if you want to. So if you wanted to add some extra pumpkins for money, you can, or obviously when we get future kind of crops in the future in other DLCs, we can add to this. But for now, I wanted to create a rustic little farm. Before we get started, there is still a percentage of you who watch my videos and are not subscribed. So if you are not subscribed yet, please do subscribe down below, hit the notification bell so you can see when I go live as well as post content. And on that note, let's get started. So as you can see, we are doing this on the Plaza floating island. There wasn't really a reason why I did it here. I just felt like it made the most sense. And I popped in the well at the bottom and then obviously started mapping in my pathway. Now, something I do use up here is the farmhouse premium shop item. If I do create a farm in my valley at some point, I will definitely use this there instead. But for now, I felt like it looked really cute up here and fit the farm aesthetic. But obviously, if you are going for a super practical build, you could definitely remove this top area that I do decorate with the farmhouse and some trees, and you could make this farm even bigger if you wanted to. So that is something to note. If you are looking to have a bit more space, that is something you could do, but I just wanted to at least make it look somewhat appealing and looked nice to me, so I added in that decoration at the top. But as you can see, I'm using some of the bordered mud pathway to create my farm base. Now for this, I wanted to do a bigger path down the middle so you could obviously get through everything easily. And then I actually added 2 of the gazebos, these were from the premium shop, into the middle just to again make it look a bit more appealing and look like a real farm. So I'm kind of figuring out the spacing here now. As you can tell, I struggled a lot to get the spacing right for this because me and maths just don't go together. So I was trying to figure out how to make sure that all of the plant boxes or kind of areas for planting were completely equal, and then I divided them into smaller sections. And then actually later on, which I didn't get on camera, as I was planting, I realized I actually could utilize the space a little bit better and make them even smaller. So I actually decided to cut these spaces into half again to make them little cube shaped planters, because when you're looking at it in furniture mode like this, the spaces look quite small, and then obviously when you come out of furniture mode and actually start walking around, you realize that it's actually really big. So I go ahead and do that later on, but for now, as you can tell, I'm mapping in the spacing. Now overall, I'm pretty sure this build, before I cut up all the spacing, gave me about 30 slots to plant different things in, which was almost enough for everything in the game, but not quite. So actually dividing them gave me double the amount, which meant that I had more than enough space to plant everything from the base game, the Eternity Isle DLC, and also the Storybook Vale. So I have all of those planted in here, which you'll see obviously later on. I do a little speed through of some of the planting because honestly, that I cannot describe how long it took me to plant everything in this build. You'll see it later, but I cut out a lot of it because I didn't want to put you through that. But before that, I'm obviously putting some fences around the farm, adding some decoration down by the barn house, as well as some little archways on the pathway. And then I'm going to give at least the build some sort of design and make it look like a functional farm by adding lots of the furniture items that we have available. Now inside the gazebos, I wanted to just create little cozy spaces, so I added in some of the rocking chairs. You could definitely use any chairs though, and then some of the little side tables in the middle and some lighting and some books. These were just to make it a little bit more appealing and to also have a really nice symmetry. That is something you can tell I've gone for with this build, is everything is very symmetrical, and if it's not directly symmetrical, it's kind of mirrored on the other side. So I wanted to include everything kind of all around the build, made sure that I had the spaces functionable so that I could get around the farm pretty easily, because as much as decorating it with loads of furniture is great, I wanted to make it so that I could literally just come up here and run around and get the things I needed very easily. This is going to be a very functional farm that I'm going to use as soon as I start running out of certain crops. Obviously at the moment I've planted a lot of Storybook Vale crops to get stocked up on those, but in terms of the plants that I use the most, such as like wheat or cotton, I obviously want to make sure I can come up here frequently and restock those when I use them for crafting or cooking or whatever it is. In terms of the pathways, I just wanted to add some really nice rustic decor that went with the farm vibe. A lot of these are craftables, so they are very easy to use. There's obviously a couple of items in there that aren't, but for the most part they are a lot of craftables. There's a lot of barrels, crates, carts, things like that that I think just work so well in a farm. I feel like if you wanted the build to be not as functional and maybe be a bit more heavily decorated, you definitely could. I went on the functional side of things, but I feel like I'd love to be able to do this build again and do it in a more kind of aesthetic way, but for this one I wanted to keep it very, very simple and very, very easy to maneuver. For those of you who are looking for a farm style build that's more on the practical side rather than kind of how it looks. Now for the lighting in the build, I went for some really simple craftable lampposts all around, and then I obviously also have the lighting going down the pathway, but I didn't need anything too major in here, but you could definitely add more if you wanted to. And then obviously just to kind of tie it all together and make it look a little bit prettier, I added in a bunch of foliage and trees behind where the barn section is. Now, as I said earlier on, you could definitely utilize this section to be more places to plant. You could definitely expand this a whole nother row, so if that's something that's more appealing to you, then definitely do so. But for me, I just wanted to at least make it look somewhat pretty and do some kind of decorating that I kind of felt like tied it all together. Now, as you can see, here is a super sped up section of me planting and watering. Now, this was the thing that took the longest to do this build. I did not even think about the fact of how long this would take, and it took me hours to plant all of these and water them all. I used a bunch of grow potions just so everything was grown in the final shot for you guys, so you could see it kind of at its best. But obviously this took me a long time. Now, every section is actually a 4x5 square, so it's not actually a square, it's more of a rectangle, but that's a kind of reference point if you wanted to know the kind of spacing. So you can actually plant 20 crops in here, so 20 of each thing, except for the ones that are next to the gazebos. These are obviously slightly smaller because of the border of the gazebo, so if you weren't going to put the gazebo in here, you could fit 20 in these spots as well, but I just felt like I liked how the gazebo looked, so I was happy to sacrifice a little bit of space. But I obviously went through and did all of this, which definitely took me the longest amount of time of the whole build. So here is the final build. As you can see down the pathway, which we'll go down first, we have got a lot of kind of autumny farmy items. Just keeping it simple. I didn't want this pathway to be too blocked, but I still wanted it to make it look like it was functional and actually would be used by people. So I added in some pumpkins, some carts, some benches, and also lots of, as I said, craftable items like the barrels and crates and things. And then as we head down to the barn, we have obviously got the owl toy barn, but rotated backwards, which is how I like displaying it best. So it looks like a real farm. And then obviously we've got our two sides of the crop fields. Now on this first side we're going into, we've got the gazebo. And then on this side we have a lot of the storybook vale crops over here, but also some extra of the base game crops that could fit in these spare gaps. So obviously when another DLC comes out, those crops will go in here instead. But for now I planted a lot of the crops that I seem to go through the most, such as like sugarcane and wheat and things like that. But for the most part, as you can see, it's a lot of storybook vale crops in here to start stocking those up. And then on the other side, we have got the base game crops and also the Eternity Isle crops. These are the ones that I probably won't harvest as much apart from the pumpkins because I'm pretty much stocked on them. So it'll be more a case of when I need them. But I wanted to kind of keep everything sectioned, kind of keep them in order of what biome they're from and also what kind of location they're from to make it a lot more structured. You could also use signposts to detail this as well if you really wanted to kind of keep it divided. So here are some shots of the final island. As I said before, I wanted to make something very practical, something that I'm going to have here for a long time and use and utilize, because I feel like this will probably stay up here for a good while. I'll probably, obviously, as I said, expand it and make it a bit bigger, remove the barn and all the decorations around the top, just to make it a little bit plainer. But for now, I wanted to create something that at least kind of allowed me to decorate and make it look pretty for you guys, but also functions and fits every crop that we currently have in the game, as well as extra spots for those of you who want to plant some extras of some different things. I hope you guys enjoyed today's build. It is not a super exciting decor one, but it was something I wanted to do in my own valley anyway, so I thought I might as well pop it in here for Buildmas for you guys. I obviously still have a lot of suggestions from you of builds you want to see, and I promise I cannot fit them all in, but we will be doing those in the new year. I've had some amazing ones that even I'd already thought of, or ones that I'd never thought of, so they will be coming in the new year. They're already written down and kind of planned out of what I'm going to do, so don't worry if you have suggested something. It is most likely going to appear, but I hope you guys did enjoy this one. It gives you some inspiration of how to map out the farm. As I said, each plot is about a 4x5 kind of rectangular shape, and you could definitely fit more than the kind of 60 or so plots that I fit into this build. If you really wanted to utilize the space and make it not decorated at all, you could fit a lot more spots in, but this one just really worked for me and still gave me the ability to decorate it and make it look pretty. Make sure you subscribe and like the video if you did enjoy, and obviously turn on the notification bell. Tomorrow is the last day of Buildmas, which is so sad, but also very exciting to know that we've done it. So I hope you guys are excited for that, because I definitely am. But I will see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye!